While it's not our purpose at the Job Description Podcast to explore occupations that are rare or highly unusual, those are certainly intriguing elements. Did you know, for example, that there are only about 660 refractory materials repairers in the United States? And there are only about 560 timing device assemblers / adjusters. But if you want really rare occupations, how about this? Only 11 people in history have ever played in the rock band Styx, and there are only 7 humans who, right now, can say their job is to be in Styx. They're one of the biggest rock bands ever, got a very distinctive style, songs that for half a century have delighted fans, and yes, induced sneers from some hipsters as well. But since they play Foxwoods on May 13th, we thought it might be fun to discuss a Styxian job description with that band's founding and ongoing lead guitarist, James J.Y. Young.
My name is James Young, and I am the co-founder of the rock band Styx, and I'm the only member of the band that's been here from the very beginning, going back to 1972. So let's talk.
Let me start off, James, by noting that if there was any sort of a moment in your life where you had to make a pivotal decision where you said, should I cast my fate to being in this new band that will be called Styx, or should I take advantage of the fact that I have a degree in aerospace engineering?
Well, honestly, there was never a doubt in my mind that I wanted to be a rock musician and play in a rock and roll band. I saw Jimi Hendrix play live 5 times.
Wow.
I saw The Who with Roger Daltrey and Peter Townsend and Crazy Keith Moon and John Entwistle. Saw them a number of times live. I saw Clapton and Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker play as Cream.
Wow.
And Johnny Winter and you name it. I was since I'm born in 49, I was late teens, early 20s when all that great stuff happened, and it profoundly influenced me. My father had saved for all of his children to go to college, and 3 of the 5 of us actually graduated, but we all started college. And where I went was Illinois Institute of Technology. My dad was successful in the construction business. My grandfather, his father, had started something called Young Construction way back in the 1920s, and my dad and 2 of his brothers took it over and it became Young and Sons Construction. It lasted for up until about 10 years ago.
Wow.
When the 3rd generation sort of decided that wasn't exactly what they wanted to do, but it was successful in its time, and they did a lot of work on building Chicago public schools as they were being built 100 years ago. And so, I mean, the engineering degree was just basically, if that was my fallback position, to be involved in the family business and keep that going. That was, I thought that would be useful. There's no real construction company or carpet. I mean, there's schools for carpentry and all this and that, but it's not really a college degree kind of thing. And my dad wanted us all to have college degrees, so I stuck it out. And the aerospace part of it was just kind of coming into being in the late 60s. And I was always a space geek as a young person, starting going back maybe to age 5 or 6. And so it seemed like an obvious thing for me to go, but also it was mechanical and aerospace engineering, and it would have put me in position to at least understand the construction industry and maybe perhaps take over the company, which was not my goal, but it was my fallback position.
Sure. So I suppose that you could have been boarding the Styx jet somewhere, and you could have been the guy that saw something out of place and said, hey, we're not getting on this plane because something
Well,
wasn't.
um, honestly, I did not take my college. I got a degree, but I can't say that I was in the top 10% of my class. It just wasn't my priority.
Sure, I got it.
And I was still granted. I still have the piece of paper, but in my really, I just mentioned all those rock concerts I went to, and I would spend 6, 7, 8 hours a day playing my guitar. And everyone in my family was started on piano lessons at age 5, and I think I was maybe well, my oldest sister really was quite. She could sight read music and put it in front of her, and she was great at that. But me, my dad played piano by ear. I could hear a tune, and he could just kind of bash it out, even if it wasn't perfect. You'd know what the song was, and I sort of inherited that from him, uh, which was of great help when I heard a Hendrix record. I said, well, he must have played it this way. And then I'd learned how to play it that way. And Foxy Lady became my trademark. And the technology, there's a gentleman named Dave Yoshinari who was American born Japanese, of Japanese descent, who was in some of my engineering classes. And he actually built a distortion box for my guitar so I could sound like Hendrix and get that first feedback note that starts in Foxy Lady, which is an F sharp, which is hard on any. It's virtually impossible to get it done. But he just kept changing little parts in this little box till it finally was there. And so I don't think he's with us anymore. But I just tip a hat to his children and. Because they helped launch my career.
Sounds like it. If you could pull off Hendrix in '69, there weren't that many people doing that. So, well, you guys, James turned 51 in February. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And as I sort of alluded to, I bought Styx 2 when it came out, and at the time when we were all at that age record shopping, album covers made a huge difference. People like myself would just buy an album based on the cover art, and and Styx 2, I certainly bought In the Court of the Crimson King based on the cover of that. But the point is, from the moment I heard, I went back and got the first Styx album, but I started with Styx 2, and I would try to reverse engineer how artists got a certain sound, and for hearing you guys and knowing you from Chicago, I thought, well, they definitely have some. I don't even know if they called it prog rock then, but the influences of that sort of material, and then the vocal clusters. I thought, well, that's Beach Boys through Three Dog Night to what? Is any of that conscious? Did you just? That's how it worked out because that's the gifts y'all brought to the table.
Well, the 3-part harmonies in that and the vocals, everyone else in the band, and even including myself, but to a lesser degree, everyone was really influenced by the Beatles and how they sang together and how awesome it was. So many different ways. McCartney was one voice. I mean, Ringo to even get in there, and John Lennon, of course, was another voice, of George Harrison, who went on to do his own solo records. So we were really more vocal oriented, at least the rest of the guys were, than I was all about playing my guitar like Hendrix. But I was given a musical gift where I do have pretty good pitch when I sing, and I'm part of all those Styx harmonies that you hear on all the records. So. I wasn't. I don't know if anything was particularly conscious. We were just doing everything and anything we knew how to do, trying to write good songs and trying to get noticed, trying to get in front of audiences where someone in the audience could maybe make a difference for us, and which is, I think, what every artist is. You got to keep standing on that stage until the right person walks in the room and says, "This is great. I want to make something happen with it." So,
just as an aside, I remember hearing the first Queen album, and I didn't know it was Queen. And I think it was, I Keep Yourself Alive might have been the first track on their first album. But I heard that on like the campus radio station, and I was like, wow, Styx is just kicking ass because I immediately thought that's Styx. And, you know, who you could probably even see the familiarity, at least the first time one hears that.
Well, the big vocals, coming from all different angles. I mean, that was Queen was there certainly, and almost bringing real traditional, vocal stylings from, I don't know, from church choirs to Broadway musicals and whatever. They just put it all together.
Yeah,
and we sort of we're heavily influenced by Queen, I must say.
Well, yeah, and so I think it's sort of cool that I associate you guys with being ahead of them. That also makes me think, and Brian May has a PhD in astrophysics, so if you guys ever do sit down, you can still use your degree. And this is the last time I'll allude to
Well, no, I mean, we've Brian May and I have been in the same room maybe for like 2 minutes at one point in time, because we opened for Queen a number of times. And but those guys were kind of standoffish.
Oh, really?
And I would just say that we basically, they were touring America, and they were at the top of the charts, and we were battling to just get heard, which ultimately we were heard.
Sure.
And then whatever happened, that kind of broke them up, exactly, or make them drift away from one another. But we were influenced by them, and as I say, the Beatles, and my big thing was Hendrix, but the band Yes also, because they were very prog, things like Roundabout, and the very first Yes album was all also very influential on the band Styx.
So, from my real-time perspective, I would have bought Equinox and then Crystal Ball, and you've got Light Up and Lorelei and Sweet Madam Blue, and all of a sudden, you guys have ascended to me as a fan pretty rapidly. Now, I know it probably wasn't that rapid to you guys, but suddenly y'all were sort of on top. How do you remember that ascension?
Well, the first 4 albums we recorded were for a local Chicago label, Wood Nickel Records,
right?
And they were distributed by RCA, which was known more for country and mainstream pop and even orchestral music going way back, but they weren't really geared towards our audience in a way, and so we felt the need to change management, change record labels, because we just felt we weren't appreciated, and we had to find someone who appreciated what we were doing. And so we got there was a British guy named Derek Sutton, and we got an attorney that helped us get out of the original recording contract we had, and then A&M Records, which is Herb Alpert and Jerry Moss, liked what they heard, and they signed us on, and then we had tremendous success on A&M, and they had a tremendous network towards, and they were much more focused towards what we were trying to get done.
From your perspective, did you just at some point say, my gosh, we're filling the biggest arenas in the country, and here we are? It had to be a sort of rewarding, certainly, but also maybe bizarre to find, not for any other reason, that all of a sudden you were rock stars.
Well, I mean, we certainly were not lacking bravado and confidence. So, Dennis Young is a very, confident individual. I'm a very confident individual. And the Panazzo brothers and Dennis had been, a unit for many, many moons. And John Sherlewski, I don't know, was not happy with a lot of things, so he left. And then we got
Tommy.
We got Tommy Shaw in the band, and that was I don't know, John Sherlewski. He was kind of a tortured soul, and he was a funny guy and an interesting guy and a great acoustic player and a really great electric player. And he had a tremendous high voice. He did all the high vocals like on Lady. He's the guy hitting the highest note in the 3-part harmony. And
I didn't know
so,
that. I thought that was
oh yeah,
Dennis.
no, Dennis and Lady is on the melody line, and then I'm singing the next part higher, which is
The third.
and then Lucy was like way in the stratosphere.
Wow. Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
Well, Tommy could do that? Is that how that worked?
Yeah, well, we needed somebody that could hit those notes. And we'd heard about Tommy Shaw. He was playing a lot of club bands that would tour around. And we'd heard about him from a guy who was our tour manager at that point in time. And when Serluski ultimately quit, because he was not happy with where things were going for him, I guess. And so Tommy was maybe the second guy we auditioned to see, second or third guy. And we said, okay, you got the part. You could do it. And didn't know how creative he was going to be. But we knew he was a great showman and an excellent guitarist. So Tommy came in, and so we were complete again in terms of the 3-part harmony vocal thing, because he could hit that high note. And God bless and God rest John Serluski, but he managed to maneuver his way out. I don't know that was his intention, but at a certain point in time, he was just not happy, and so we moved on without him.
The first time I heard the song "Crystal Ball" at the acoustic section, where it's just Tommy and the acoustic guitar, I was sitting on my couch in my college apartment, and my girlfriend was over, and she said, "When did Styx get a female vocalist?"
High-voiced males. You get your Freddie Mercurys, you get your Dennis DeYoungs, and John Serluski had a very high voice as well. And mine used to be pretty darn high, but that's kind of, I've lost a few notes on the top here at my advanced age. But,
well, yeah, I mean that's just biology, and I assume all of y'all in the band have to take care of that to a certain extent, as much as Tommy has to sing every night. And I'll put it this way: let's compare the hospitality writer for Styx on the Styx 2 tour compared to what you got now. Is it a lot healthier? And
well, I would say it could be argued either way. I mean, I basically, the thing I will do before I go out on stage is eat pizza.
Is it Chicago style, based on your heritage?
Chicago. Well, it's whatever I can get my hands on, no matter where we're off in where Jesus left his shoes in Wyoming. But everybody can make a pizza, and typically they're nice and greasy, so it lubricates. My voice tends to dry out, and so I like to have some kind of greasy thing that's going down beforehand, and pizza with a whole lot of cheese and a certain amount of meat on it. That dense nutritional charge just kind of stays with you throughout the evening. It doesn't go away quickly. So, but everybody's got their own little routine to try and keep their voice good and not compromise it and not blow it out. So,
fair. All right, let me ask this: you guys had reached. You were about as big as you could get, and you rode that way for a while. But the reality of music is that it keeps evolving, and in terms of rock or popular music, audiences get younger, and it's only fair that each generation, they might still appreciate and like the older bands, but that's maybe your parents' music or something. So you find your own stars and your own level or whatever, and that's all fair. But what is it like when clearly you're still touring big halls, but what is it like to have to emotionally accept, wow, we've we've hit the top of the mountain and now we've got to level out a little bit. Does it take adjusting, or were you farsighted enough to say, well, this is going to happen, we need to realize this?
Well, you have to believe in yourself, even if it's a false sense of belief. I mean, if you don't believe in yourself, you don't belong there. And for us at this stage, the craziest thing that I've noticed over the last post-pandemic is that our audience is very much, it's not just baby boom. We're kind of becoming an all ages show, or we're starting with, there's teenagers there. And because I think our music is kind of, it's not so extreme, stylistically speaking, off in any particular direction, or monotonous, because there's a great variance there, and there's some great songs which Tommy has written and Dennis has written, and I got a couple that I was involved in.
Midnight Ride, Snowblind, Miss America. Yeah. See, I'm a James Young cheerleader.
Well, I like that.
Queen of Spades.
Queen of Spades.
Sorry about it. I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. It's we have a wealth of great songs to perform, and we spin some in, spin some out, just depending on I guess in some ways our mood. But if the band is, this is kind of, because now we have we have a female lighting director does great things. We've got a great front of house sound mixer. We got a great monitor mixer, and a great road crew that make all these things possible. So there's some flexibility in what we do. We can change it depending on if we do have a co-headline bill with maybe a band that's a little bit more softer and more melodic, we might soften our stuff up a little bit to appeal to their fans. But mostly we're just doing what brought us to success. And Renegade, it's crazy, but that song has kind of found so many uses, in commercials, in other things that you would have never thought. Come Sail Away is another one that just those kind of songs find their way into the mainstream in crazy and wonderful ways that have really benefited us. And so it's easy for us. Our music connects still with all ages, which is kind of ultimately, well, when originally I recognized that, it was a huge surprise and a giant light bulb going off. But we are broad enough in what we do, but we bring power to every song, I think, and particularly the 3-part harmonies. That's one of our trademarks. We're not the only band that has that kind of a trademark, but there's and then writing great songs and being able to perform them live. So.
All right, listen, now, I won't pretend and say I stayed. There was a point when I would buy every Styx album when it came out, and I think that probably ended around Pieces of Eight for a variety of reasons that had very little to do with Styx. But when I found out I was going to have the opportunity to speak with you, I listened to The Mission and Crash of the Crown, and I thought, my God, these are really good Styx albums. And I think the point I'm trying to make is you guys know going out every night that the people paying to see you want to see, 18, 20 songs that they're familiar with, and all credit to the fact that you have a list that long of songs that people enjoy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, here you are, born in 1949, and you guys are creating perfectly competitive albums over the last 4 or 5 years. How do you think you've stayed that creatively fresh? Because I hear a lot of bands that I've liked a long time that'll come out with something new, and it's like, boy, is that just retread? And in this case, it's not. But how do you stay creatively fresh? And also, do you have to dampen your expectation that the crowd says, sure, play me 5 new songs?
Well, it's that could be live performance suicide to try and introduce that many in any given situation. But we want people to recognize that people come to hear certain big songs, and there's depending on who it is, it's anywhere from like 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 songs that we play that people want to hear, and ultimately, we have to spoon feed something that's new, and maybe knowing that one crowd is maybe a little bit less rock edgy than another one, we might just put a couple, make the song "Light Up"
Yeah,
is in
I
there.
love
It's
that
kind
tune.
of it's like an upbeat kind of happy thing about, which was, basically it was basically about smoking weed. Uh, but we couldn't really say it at the time. It was
Yeah,
more like, because it was everyone, when audience members started, lighting, putting their cigarette lighters up there, or lighting a match or whatever, just to show their appreciation, or whatever kind of lights they would bring in. That's kind of what inspired that song, and so that one's, a lot of these work, and we try and keep if there's people that follow us from city to city to city, we try and make it a little bit different every night, so it's not the same, monotonous thing that they've heard 2 nights before, 3 nights before, because we do have fans that'll come to that many shows, and when we're out on a run, depending. Uh,
do you get to
so
know any of these people?
we have some super fans that we'll have, bump into in the store during the day, and recognize, and they do write fan letters, and there's some people that yeah, we do have people that are regular audience members that I have their phone numbers, and I'll call them from time to time, because I think they're not stalkers, and they're not going to shoot me the next time they see me.
I don't know why
Uh,
I'm laughing, but yes.
so no, I mean, I don't know, it's we've evolved into this. There's a kind of like a giant Styx family, and we're the parents of this music, and but the children who've come along to follow us, every now and then they say have some wonderful insights about, gee, I really love that song. How come you guys haven't played it this long? And I mean, sometimes those are just chance meetings in an airport, but that might inspire us. Hey, let's why don't we throw this one in and see how it goes down tonight? Which is good. It keeps it a little bit fresh for us, and so
All right. Here's the hardest question you've ever been asked. How many Styx t-shirts do you own, and when was the last time you wore one?
um, I own very few, and I don't think I've worn one ever.
Well, okay, fair enough. James, thank you so much for your time. Your job being in Styx is a good gig.
Amen. Yes.
Amen. All right. Job Description is a production of the Day Publishing Company in New London, Connecticut, and is hosted by me, Rick Coster. Peter Wappy produces and edits the show. Our theme song is Here and Now by the band Wind Up, written by Michael Clay and Ernie Myers. Can't get enough of me? I write a free weekly newsletter called The Fun Never Stops. You can subscribe at theday.com/newsletters. If you want to support this podcast, leave a rating or a review wherever you listen to, or even better, subscribe to The Day at theday.com/subscribe.